kids are getting pretty wild in there, man. Is that safe?
Yeah, they're fine. I've got their keys.
Start off where we left off yesterday, talking about the American Civil War and the
Hey, have a beer, man. You deserve it.
It's not worth it. Underage drinking risks everything you're working for.
Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to the Safe Streets Coalition meeting. My name is Chris Schultz. I'm your host here today, and I'd like to thank you for coming out on this beautiful day. We've got a lot of things going on in the world right now, but I think we're all able to be here in this room and come together and try and make Topeka the safest capital community in the country. And there's a lot of people out there on the streets right now working on the same thing. So I say we start this thing out with a nice round of applause for those who couldn't be here, who are doing that for us today. All right, now please be sure to sign in at the form on your table so we can get you all the information. Do we have any visitors here today? Let's see, I want to run around the room real quick here and check in with our visitors. What's your name?
I'm Brandon from Safe Streets, Wichita.
Welcome, Brandon from Safe Streets, Wichita. Give him a round of applause over here. Does anyone else want to introduce themselves as a visitor so I can come over and put a microphone in your face? All right. Well, if you don't want to talk on the mic, you can talk about becoming a member of the coalition with Judy. She's right back in the back over there, making sure everybody gets their lunches there. So she'll be happy to get you signed up for the coalition. We want to get this started right off. We have a very busy meeting for you, a lot to discuss today. So please welcome Cindy Patton up here from the Champion of Character here today as we present that. And if you're on the Character Committee, if you could join us up here at the front of the room, please. Thank you.
Okay, we've got Shelley here, Shelley Bueller, and we have the sheriff, and I think we have a DA here, yes, Mr. Keggy. And the word of the month this month is respect, which means honoring others because of their worth as human beings. And today we'd like to recognize and honor a very special young lady, but first we're going to do Champion of Character. So we've got some special things happening today. And for our Champion of Character, we'd like to call Daryl Stewart forward. Daryl, would you come forward, please? Daryl works with Shawnee County Parks and Rec, and we're going to have the DA present the Character Award today.
Thank you, Cindy. The Kansas Character Recognition Council of Topeka, Shawnee County recognizes Daryl Stewart. As the strength of our nation is dependent upon the health and safety of its communities, the strength of our community is dependent upon the character of its citizens. Topeka City of Character and Safe Streets Coalition of Topeka and Shawnee County recognize Daryl Stewart. For 32 years, Daryl Stewart and his wife mentored foster children in their home. This was his way of honoring his late mother's wish for him to have a better life after she passed away when Daryl was just 15. On his own from that time on, Daryl worked overnight, got himself to school each morning, came home, slept, then went to work again. He bought few items for himself. Instead, he invested his earnings into the children so they could have a better life. For years, he ran Hillcrest Community Center. He held the philosophy that the more time kids spent in the center doing something positive and productive, the less time they spent on the streets where they could get into trouble. Demonstrating generosity, compassion, benevolence, and availability makes Daryl Stewart a champion of character. Congratulations, Mr. Stewart.
Wow. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to accept this on behalf of my wife. She couldn't make it today, but she's the one that pushes me. I'd like to say thank you to my coworkers who work tirelessly to make sure that we have programs and activities for kids to do. And this is oh man, this is an honor, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And we have another award. I'm going to turn this over to Noni Kramer, Executive Director of Topeka City of Character.
Thank you, Cindy. I'd like to present a new recognition. This is a partnership with A1 Lock and Key, and we'd like to present the Keys to Character Award. The Keys to Character program aims to recognize youth 18 and under for demonstrating model citizenship, leadership skills, and encouraging their peers to do the same. The recipient for October in our very first Keys to Character is Jamara Benning. This was a surprise to her. Her family didn't tell her, so we've made it this whole way without her finding out. Jamara was nominated by Dr. Jennifer Gordon, principal of McClure Elementary School here in Topeka, Kansas. And we have a short video that we would like to show of Jamara that was created by McClure Elementary. So we're gonna go ahead and show that.
Hello, my name is Jamara Benning. I'm a second grader at McClure Elementary School in Topeka, Kansas. Volunteering makes a difference, no matter how old you are. Giving back is something that everyone who can give should give. You just never know when something in your life may cause you to be a person in need. Volunteering for the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer fundraising events was important because I got to personally work with lots of other volunteers, supporters, and cancer survivors. When I was volunteering for Sheltered Living Festival of Trees, I was able to work with my mom and grandma to design a Christmas tree that we donated. It was auctioned off for $1,000. All that money went to help individuals with disabilities. This year, I organized a Toys for Tots drive at my school. This was probably my favorite volunteering project because I was able to get several of my classmates as well as several other students in my school to bring in new toys for children in our community that wouldn't receive a gift. Our school collected 425 new toys. It is important for me to give back because not only does it make me feel good, it makes others feel good too. There's lots of things kids can do. We're powerful and have the ability to make a difference now and also for our future. Say yes to volunteering. It's important to our community. I, you, we, together can make a difference.
I'd like to read Dr. Gordon's nomination of Jamara Benning. Jamara demonstrated leadership by wanting to help a student in her class whose family was homeless last spring. She discussed this with her principal, Dr. Gordon, then decided that her 4th grade class could have cookie sales after school to raise money for the family. She and her classmates made signs and sent notes home to their parents to donate cookies for them to sell. After school, they set up a table on the sidewalk and sold cookies. After just 2 cookie sales, they raised over $100 and presented a check to the mom of their classmate. Jamara has even more community service ideas that she and her 5th grade Leadership Academy students will be working on. They've started collecting change for children in Texas affected by Hurricane Harvey. She'd also like to get a peace bench installed on their playground for students to sit on to resolve conflicts. And she wants to get a book barn installed in front of their school so people in the neighborhood can get free books to read. Jamara Benning is a model citizen for her peers and community, making her a key to character. We also have this trophy for you to keep. There you go. And want to get a picture? Yeah. Would you like to say anything? I heard that they said your sister was getting an award, and that's how they got you here, and you helped her write a speech last night. Do you want to take any of those words of wisdom from that speech you helped her write?
Not really, but I will.
That's up to you.
Sure.
Okay. I'll hold this for you. Okay. And
First of all, I just want to say thank you to all the people who helped me get this award, and my parents for helping me through all the struggles. And my two older sisters for being there when I need them.
if you know a deserving student or youth in the community that you would like to nominate as a key to character, please nominate them at topekacharacter.org, and we look forward to seeing all the good things that are going on in Topeka. Thank you.
Thank you, Noni, and everyone with the Champion of Character and the Keys to Character, Jamara. Good job. Let's give her a nice round of applause. Another one. And Daryl, we need to give Daryl another round of applause as our Champion of Character. All right, and now we get down to the business of the meeting. We need to approve the minutes from our September meeting, so I'll look for a motion from the floor to approve those minutes. We have a motion. Do we have a second to approve the minutes? Second. All in favor of approval, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, the minutes are approved. Now please welcome, for a staff update, the director of Safe Streets, Christy Pankratz, here to the front. And she loves that applause as well, I'm telling you what. Right?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see a full house, and thank you to all of our Keys to Character and Champion of Character recipients and their families for being here today. It's great to have a full crowd. Safe Streets has a lot of things going on right now, and we encourage you, we continue to see a lot of neighborhoods that want to form groups and connect with each other, and encourage you that if you are interested in connecting with your neighbors, to please give us a call. There are a lot of active groups in Shawnee County, and we can help you start one if there isn't one already in your neighborhood. We do have a couple of different trainings coming up. One is a safe property management. This is geared towards landlords, apartment complex workers, maintenance workers, things to watch out for and to help keep properties safe. We also have a drug trends training on October 19th. This goes over what's currently going on in our community and in our nation. It's an 8-hour training. If you're interested in either of any of these events, please give us a call. I'm going to turn it back over to Chris.
Thank you, Christy. And now for our partner updates from the Topeka Police Department, please welcome Sergeant Manny Munoz. And he loves that applause too, loves that.
The Topeka Police Department is hosting a Coffee with the Cop again. We're going to be doing it at 17th in Wanamaker on November 8th. So please come and see us. It'll be from about 5:30 to 7:30. So come drink some coffee, eat some chicken nuggets. Make sure you get hot mustard. That's the good stuff. We also are partnering up with the community. We are attending lunch with the Friends of Sheldon Head Start. The officers, our community officers, will be meeting with them and eating lunch with them once a month throughout the school year. And please come out October 15th, the Topeka Police Department. We're going to take it again. Battle with the we're laughing. It's my presentation. Battle of the Badges. It's charity flag football to raise money for the Special Olympics. I can't remember where we're at as far as the Topeka Police Department and the Fire Department. I know we won it last year, but come on out and support us. We're going to have Assistant Chief come up here. He'd like to. Are you coming up, boss? What's that? I can. Okay. Unfortunately, if you're looking at our stats, yesterday we unfortunately had another homicide. We're up by 2. I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're working very hard. Our detectives are working long hours. Yesterday, the administration made a decision, and we, community officers, were pulled in to assist in any way, which way we could. 8 of your community officers yesterday spent some time out in the community where this homicide occurred in the 1300 block of Western, and we basically went door to door, talked to people, stopped cars, handed out about 500 flyers, trying to get some information. We need public assistance, and that's unfortunately a number we don't like to see going up, but that's the reality. We need people to help us. The rapes have gone down, thank God. The robberies to businesses have gone up, so does the robbery to the individuals, and our aggravated batteries, aggravated assaults have also gone up. Those are obvious numbers that we don't like to see, and we're working very hard to bring those down. The burglaries to businesses are down. Our burglaries to residences are definitely going down. We're going on a good way there. Our auto thefts are really down. You can see all of our numbers, with the exception of the shoplifting, which, you know, there's only 2 of them that we've gone up by 2 of them on that. Pretty much everything has gone down. The total number, we're minus 354. Good numbers to show, but we like to bring them all down across the board. Does anybody have any questions for me? Any questions regarding these numbers or anything? Okay, sir.
You guys can clap for Manny.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear me? Oh, yeah, you can out there. First of all, I wanted to, one of the things that the numbers set up there is that if you look on that second slide, all those blue numbers, this is my 30th year on the Topeka Police Department, and we really never had blue numbers almost across the board on property crimes. That number there at the bottom, it says plus 43. That was way higher at the beginning of this year, about middle of the summer. That number is down 43. We are actually down about 5.5% across the board on crime in Topeka. But what these numbers don't tell is, like in that one line, the 316, that's 88 domestic violence. October is a Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we need everybody to go out and march with that and make awareness of that. If you see something or you know a family that's having trouble, get them the help they need. One of the things I also wanted to bring up that this doesn't tell you is we push this out all the time, and since this is the Safe Streets Coalition, we've had 81 reports of vehicles broken into where guns were stolen out of the vehicles since the beginning of the year. 81 firearms that have been taken out of vehicles. Would anybody wonder how many were locked? I can tell you, 12. People are walking in with guns in their cars and not locking their vehicles. Your Topeka Police Department has arrested 72 individuals with firearms. That's come in personal contact with firearms. And out of those 72 so far this year, 47 people are convicted felons. It's unprecedented. Your police department has arrested 537 more people this year than we did in 2016. Your officers, thank you for, please, thank you. Your officers are working hard. We're down 25 officers right now. And by the end of the year, we'll be down 30. We've got a class that's out. We've only got 7. Our recruitment numbers are way down. And I know it sounds bad. You saw what the KBI released yesterday. The resources are strained. We're strained. But I got to say, one of the things that I want to say I'm so proud of this community is we pull together almost every time. And as a coalition and a Safe Street, I know that we can pull together now in our time of need. And I want to end by using Jamara's words. Jamara, is she in here? But Jamara, I think, gave us a whole new motto today. She said in that one little vignette, she says, I, you, me can make the difference. So please, come together. Thank you.
We certainly can. Thank you very much. Now for a report from the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office, please welcome Deputy Previty.
Good afternoon. Like you said, my name is Ashley Previty. I'm with the Sheriff's Office. I am in charge of our Offender Registration Office. A little bit about what I'm going to talk to you about is our registered offenders in the community, so you can be aware with Halloween coming up. I feel it's important to remind everybody that we do have registered offenders in the community, to have everybody be aware of their surroundings, whose house they're going to, and those types of things for Halloween. Currently in Shawnee County, we have 1,230 registered offenders that live, work, or go to school here. Of those, 607 are sex offenders, 313 are violent offenders, and 310 are drug offenders. So almost half of our offenders are sex offenders that are registered here in this county. State law does not prohibit registered offenders from participating in Halloween. There are no restrictions. They can have their light on, they can pass out candy, they can be out and about in the community. The only restrictions that may be on certain offenders, if they're still on probation and their probation officer gives them restrictions such as a curfew or to have their light off on Halloween night. The Sheriff's Office would recommend for parents to be aware of their community and who's around them. You can go to the Sheriff's Office website at shawneesheriff.org. We have a link to our Offender Watch, which is who we use to register offenders. You can go on that, you can search your address. It'll come up, give you a radial search. You can search 1 mile, 2 miles, 5 miles from your home. It will tell you all registered public offenders in that area. It will give you an address, a picture, so that you are aware of who is around you and your children to make it a safe Halloween for everybody. I recommend before going out trick-or-treating that parents, number one, go with your children. You don't have to walk to every door with them, but be out with them, be visible, go to well-lit areas, have the children only go to doors that have lights on, and again, be aware of what door you're going to be knocking on. Teach your children to be aware of who's around them. If they're uncomfortable, they need to tell somebody. I've been told for a long time, go with your gut. If your gut says something's wrong, something's usually wrong. Teach your children not to enter anybody's home for any reason unless they know them. We've had cases in other states where offenders have been having candy passed out. They say they're out, they tell the children to step inside, and then boom, somebody's kid is missing. We don't want to have that happen here in this community. We try to keep everybody safe, especially our children. Again, you can register at our website for email notifications for offenders that move into your area. If you want to stay informed on who's around you and your children, That link is, again, on the Sheriff's Office webpage. You go to Offender Watch, you can register your email address, and it'll send you email notifications anytime somebody moves in or out of your neighborhood. Anybody having any questions, concerns? Sheriff, did I hit anything you would like to admit?
You did a great job there. I will say that the collaboration with the police department and the sheriff's office, we will have a trunk or treat at the LAC on Halloween and evening. So look forward to having those out.
Yeah, trunk and treats, either through community, like the sheriff's office and the police department, or through local churches or other local community events. I recommend first and foremost because it's going to be well populated and safer than I feel like going door to door. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Kegley. All right, and now it's time for our special presentation. Please welcome Mike Kegley, the Shawnee County District Attorney, up here for our presentation. He loves the applause. I know this guy, right?
Good afternoon, everyone. I told my wife last night that I had the opportunity to come and speak to you all today, and I told her I hope to have a wireless microphone because I like to walk around while I talk, and she told me, don't do that, that's distracting to everybody. So I'm going to stand here and talk for a while, and then I might just pick this up and mingle with you in a bit. I do have some things that I want to address. However, I am very receptive to questions, and you don't necessarily have to hold those questions until the end. A lot of times it's a better conversation that can happen, a better discourse that happens if I touch on something that is pertinent to any one of you and you want to address that in more detail. Also, I'm also happy to stay behind later and talk to you individually if you're not comfortable asking something in front of the group. So, a little bit about me, for those of you who have not met me. My name is Mike Kegley. I'm the DA here in Shawnee County. Until recently, in January, I was an assistant DA in the DA's office. And in that capacity, I got moved around quite a bit. I handled felony prosecution. I handled juvenile offender cases. I handled child native care cases. And that gave me a pretty good sampling for the issues that we face as a community and the issues specific to the DA's office. And there came a time during that process where I started to get a little bit frustrated because I felt like, you know, I show up every day, I'm doing my job, and we're all working hard, and we're all trying to make a difference. But I felt like there was something more that could be done. And the opportunity presented itself last year to run for the elected position and to take the office over. And I decided after a lot of consideration and discussing it with family and friends that I should go ahead and do that. And I was successful. Obviously, I'm here today. If I hadn't been successful, you guys wouldn't have to listen to me for the next 30 minutes. So, and speaking of that, Christy did tell me earlier today, I asked her how much time I get, you know, because I'm an attorney and a politician, so 2 strikes against me as far as just talking and talking without stop. And she did say I could talk as long as I wanted, between 20 and 30 minutes. So you can thank her later for that. I was sworn in on January 9th of this year, so that is, I looked it up before I came over today, that is 38 weeks. And that is significant to me on a personal level, not just because that's 38 weeks as the DA in Shawnee County, but also because my wife and I are about to have our 5th child, and I have an application which tells me how far along she is, and I double-checked, and she is also 38 weeks. So I'm not really sure the significance of those 2 facts in connection with each other. Hopefully one of you can explain that to me later. So, yes, one of my goals as the DA is to have the best DA's office, not just around the state, because there are a lot of good prosecutors around the state. But I want to have the best DA's office that this county has ever seen. And that's a big goal. That's a lot to cover. And I know we're just 38 weeks in. But it's something I care about deeply, and it's something that I feel like this community deserves. We have so many good people here. We have so many wonderful families here. And my family lives here. I live here with my family, and I believe I owe that to them, and I owe that to each one of you and your families to put together the absolute best office in the DA's office that I can. And I feel like we're on our way. So ultimately, hopefully that will translate into the bigger goal, which is to have the safest capital city in the country. We play a specific role as far as prosecution, and we partner with our law enforcement agencies, and we are very lucky here in Shawnee County to have people like Sheriff Herman Jones and all the wonderful folks at the Topeka Police Department who do work very hard and do work with us in investigating crime and ultimately in holding offenders accountable. As you know, anytime you're trying to accomplish anything meaningful and it involves someone more than yourself, you have to have good people. You have to have a good team. And I can say with absolute certainty today, I have an absolutely amazing team in the DA's office. Some of them are prosecutors who had experience previously in the office that I brought back in. Some of them were new prosecutors. Some of them have been there for decades. And collectively, with the support staff that we have, I do feel confident in saying this is the most professional and efficient office that I have seen in quite some time. And I've been told by our resident office historian, Mr. Joel Meineke, for any of you that know Joel, he's been in the DA's office beginning in 1967, 1968, I believe, and he has shared those same sentiments with me. So he's seen a lot over the years, and he's seen a lot of different administrations, a lot of different offices, and he was very impressed. Now, full disclosure, I do pay him. He works for me. So, when I ask him these questions, you can take it with a grain of salt if you want to, but if anyone here knows Joel, he doesn't hold back. So, I do want to take a moment to recognize one of my main people who is here with me today, just because I know it will make him supremely uncomfortable to do so. And his name is Charles Kitt, for anyone that knows Chuck. He was the chief prosecutor in the city before I brought him back to the DA's office where he had been for a number of years. Charles, will you please smile and wave at the nice people? Thank you. I'm sure he's going to try and get me back later, so I'll look forward to that. Chuck is my chief of staff, and he's also a deputy DA, so he runs a regular caseload of all the more serious charges that come through our office, and he also is my right-hand guy as far as dealing with staff issues and personnel and spacing and anything related to that. So like I said, the key is to have good people, and we do have good people. We have very talented, dedicated people that are passionate about the work that we do. We've changed the structure in the office slightly. We've moved resources here or there and reallocated some things. I don't want to bore you with all those details. But I will just kind of give you a high-level view briefly for how we are organized. So we have 10 felony prosecutors, and collectively they handle all the felony charges in Shawnee County. We have 2 attorneys who are dedicated to misdemeanors and traffic, and they also supervise a group of legal interns. We have 4 attorneys who collectively cover juvenile offender, child need of care cases, and mental illness petitions. And then we have an appellate attorney, and we have a division of investigators who serve subpoenas for us and do follow-up on domestic violence cases that are referred to us from law enforcement. And then, of course, we have our wonderful legal assistants who keep us going to court on time and, print off all the things that we need to make sure we're fully prepared. We have undertaken, as part of the first year of my administration, we've undertaken a number of changes, we believe pretty good improvements throughout the office. And one of those that has been documented pretty publicly has been the implementation of additional grand juries. And I've talked about this before. I wrote an opinion piece for the Capital Journal, and I've addressed this in some interviews, but I don't feel like I'm covering too much to do it again here, because I still get questions, even from other prosecutors around the state, that want to know about the grand jury and why we use the grand jury. So I'm going to try now to talk less like an attorney and more just like a normal human being to you. In a larger sense, the grand jury is simply a panel of citizens, a cross-section of the community. So anyone here that's not law enforcement could probably serve on the grand jury at some point. And we bring in this group of people, and we impanel 15 at a time, and we need to have at least 12 at any given time to actually present cases to them. And the entire function of the grand jury is to determine whether or not the evidence that's been presented to us by law enforcement is sufficient to move forward on a case, okay? So if you look around the state of Kansas, if we are in Wichita or Kansas City or Lawrence or anywhere else, they don't use a grand jury the same way we do. In fact, they don't typically use a grand jury at all. How that would work and how it worked before in the office is if Sheriff Jones had a case that he was investigating and he wanted us to prosecute it, he would bring it over, he would bring me the reports, video, photographs, all the physical evidence, and then I would take a look at that, and I would take a look at the applicable law, and I would do some case law research possibly, and then I would decide whether or not charges should be filed on this particular person for the crimes that were alleged, okay? So the same thing happens, but instead of making that decision by myself, we present that evidence to citizens in the community, to people from Shawnee County, who get to decide whether or not charges should be filed. This is a very old system. There's actually provisions for it going back to the U.S. Constitution. So it's nothing new, it's just fallen out of practice in recent times in this state. And the reason I emphasize that is because it might surprise some of you to know that there are jurisdictions around the country where they cannot make charging decisions on their own. They actually have to run it through a grand jury. And I was at a meeting in Washington, D.C. earlier this year, and I talked to a couple DAs from Minnesota, and I think one was from Ohio, and they were explaining to me that they cannot file a murder charge. They have to present that information to the grand jury, and it's only the grand jury that gets to decide whether or not the case moves forward and that person is prosecuted. So a little bit different than the way we do things here. But we have implemented now 4 grand juries with the support and cooperation of law enforcement and with the support of the Shawnee County Commission. So Commissioner Bueller, thank you for your support. Round of applause for her, please. And the upshot is it makes us much more efficient as an office, and it frees up the officers from having to testify on every single one of their cases. They can actually be out on the street doing their job and keeping us safe. And also, if you were a witness to a crime and we did not use a grand jury, you would have to show up and testify at a preliminary hearing, and that can be a great inconvenience too. So this is about being more efficient as an office internally and also minimizing the impact on our citizens in the community. So we have done that, and we're pretty happy about how it's going. We've also changed the way that we work with law enforcement in terms of securing their presence at our hearings when we do have preliminary hearings or we do have jury trials that happen. So we've done some efficiencies there. We changed our diversion program. We've done some different things with Shawnee County Dispatch to become more efficient in cooperation with them. That's gone very well. We've started collecting bonds from bonding companies, which has never happened before in the history of Shawnee County, as far as I know. I'm going to skip ahead over the rest of these efficiencies, and you'll just have to take my word for it that we are very efficient. And case in point, see, we just skip through everything because that's how efficient we are. So I want to touch briefly on some of the major challenges facing our community right now. And this is the part where I pick up the microphone and I'm going to walk around. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. So meth addiction is something that's been well documented in this community. It's something that continues to be a problem. Jerry, can you hear me? Speak louder? Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Maybe I'll just go back here. Maybe my wife was right. The meth problem is pervasive throughout the community. Hopefully it's not directly affecting any of your neighborhoods where you live, but it does seem to be a problem that ranges throughout the community. And no one is completely safe from this, because you can have a family member develop an addiction, you could have a friend of yours, or just some random stranger develop an addiction. And you know, if all they wanted to do was use the drug and stay home and not create any problems, that would be one thing. But unfortunately, that's not the case with a meth addict. They have a tendency to act violently. They have a tendency to commit property crime in order to further their addiction, in order to secure funding for it. So that is something that is a significant challenge that we're facing right now, and we have been facing for some time. And I know law enforcement is working diligently on that. I know we have prioritized especially the prosecution of anyone who deals in drugs. We want to hold everyone accountable for their actions, but I don't know that targeted prosecution of meth dealers was always a focus in the DA's office. I can assure you today that it is. One of the other things that we deal with a lot is someone struggling with mental health problems. That seems to be a recurring theme. There's not a whole lot that we can do other than try and prosecute them and get them resources that they need. But that's part of a bigger issue that I'll talk about here in a minute. The property crime is pretty bad in Shawnee County. I know that those numbers that Darren show that it's down, and that's wonderful, and I hope that continues to be the case. But for the most part, what we're seeing in the DA's office is a combination of drug crime, property crime, and a smaller percentage of actual violent crime, which is significant, especially this year. And I would say over the past couple years, based on some numbers I saw this morning that the KBI had released, I believe yesterday, and they talked about how violent crime, or specifically homicide, is up 46% over the past 2 years. That's pretty significant, 46%. And unfortunately, we are not immune to that in Shawnee County. So what are we going to do about it? Domestic violence and sexual violence remain challenges that we face. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about is a new program that I am instituting and have instituted in the DA's office regarding domestic violence. I feel like there's a tendency for a lot of people in law enforcement or in prosecution to pick one side or another as far as how you're going to handle domestic violence. It's very tricky because you're dealing with someone who is in an intimate relationship. They're invested in that relationship. They may have children in common with the person who's abusing them. They may one day not like that person and be ready and willing to testify against them and hold them accountable for their actions. And then the very next day, they may be madly in love with them and they don't want to have anything to do with our office. So this is a cycle that goes on, and if anyone here is an expert or an advocate in domestic violence, I'm sure you could articulate that much better than I am right now. But the point is, when you have a problem that's recurring, you need to allocate more resources, and that's something that we've done in the DA's office. And I have tasked my chief investigator with following up personally anytime we receive a report of a felony domestic violence incident. He is following up directly with those victims right away, so we can establish that contact and maintain those lines of communication. One of the other things that seems to be a problem in this community, and I don't see that problem here today, and I want to emphasize that. This is very encouraging for me to come here today and listen to our champions and people who are out there doing good work. Ms. Benning and Mr. Stewart, I applaud you both. Thank you for everything that you guys have done, and I hope you continue it, because it's absolutely necessary. I want to try something for a second. By show of hands, how many people here are here because they work in law enforcement or public safety? Just by show of hands. Okay. Now, for everyone else that did not raise their hand, would you please stand up? Okay. Can we please give these folks a round of applause? That is so amazing. What I just witnessed is amazing, okay? I'm here because I was asked to come here and speak, and because this is part of my responsibility to talk to folks and to work on public safety. But for everyone that just stood up, you guys are amazing. Thank you. That's what it's going to take for us to become the safest capital city, and we do need to draw together. And Ms. Benning, I'm sorry. How old are you? She's 10 years old and she understands it. Okay? That's beautiful. Thank you. It's going to take everybody working together. It's not just the cops, it's not just the prosecutors, it's everybody. There's some things that people can do in the community as a whole to help out with that. And some of them have already been touched on, but I just want to go over a few things real quickly. And I promise I'm almost done. There was a famous quote that I've heard a number of times, and it's been attributed to different people over the years, and I'm going to modify it slightly. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. That is absolutely true. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. It's not enough to just say, well, I wish things were a certain way. It's not enough to say, well, that's a sad story. I'm sorry that happened to that person. If you want to truly make an impact and you really want to help and make a difference, you actually have to take action. And everyone here today is taking that action. So thank you for that. If you see something, say something. This is something that I've heard quite a lot lately, and it seems to be having good results. If something does seem off to you, contact law enforcement. Get to know your neighbors. Participate in National Night Out, but don't just go, one day a week, or I'm sorry, one day a year and go meet your neighbors, but actually get to know them a little bit. Develop those relationships and start to understand who they are, who they know, who their friends are, so that if you see something that seems out of place, you can contact somebody. Lock your doors. I know Darren talked about this. Lock your car doors. Lock your homes. I believe he said that 47 felons had been arrested in possession of a firearm. 47. Sometimes people ask me about the shootings. Why do we have so many shootings? It's because we have felons carrying around firearms. Now, I am not anti-gun. I own guns. And responsible gun ownership is completely fine. But if you are a convicted felon in the state of Kansas, the law says you do not get to carry a gun. You can't do it. That is a privilege that you have forfeited based on your felony conviction. I'm going to tell you guys something now that makes me very upset, so bear with me. Under the Kansas sentencing guidelines, if you do not have a maxed out criminal history and you are a felon, and I convict you in court for possessing a firearm, your sentence is presumptive probation. If there's no consequence to the act, then where's the deterrent? If you're on the street and you think you need to carry a gun for your protection, and you know that if the DA prosecutes you and you're convicted, and all you get is probation, what's the deterrent? Now, thankfully, the federal authorities have some severe guidelines for this. And oftentimes we do take a case and we convert it into a federal case, and they prosecute that person, and that person goes to federal prison. But one of the projects that I want to work on is changing that dynamic at the state level. I believe if you're a felon and you're caught with a firearm, you should go to prison. End of story. The last thing that I want to talk about is social media. And this ties back to what I just said about people carrying, felons carrying guns around. For whatever reason, kids these days have to be on social media all the time, talking to each other, exchanging stories with each other, and oftentimes they're trading insults and they're going back and forth. And you post something on Facebook and that's public, and now you've called out this other person that you have a problem with, and all of his friends see it, and so now it's I guess it's some sort of test of manhood to see what you're going to do next. And so someone feels compelled to take a gun because they have a gun and go and do something with it that they shouldn't do. My kids are young enough that they have not, they're not on social media, but this is something I'm going to have to deal with over the next few years. And I would encourage anybody who does have children who are on Facebook, Snapchat, whatever, to be aware of those activities. Be aware of what your kids are doing, not just while they're outside the home, but they could be in their bedroom right now, doing something on Facebook that you don't want them to do. They could be, this segues into my final point, which is they could be in bed at home on their tablet or their smartphone, and they're having a conversation with somebody who they believe is someone their age, but it's really a predator. It's somebody who is masking their identity using social media. And they're reaching into that home, and they are trying to steal your child's innocence in your home. So I would encourage everyone to be vigilant and to monitor those types of activities. And I know I'm standing up here and I'm saying it, but I found an application on my 9-year-old daughter's tablet that was just some friendly looking game, but it also allowed her to have conversations with other people. And I feel like I'm pretty vigilant. You know, it's part of my responsibility. So I would encourage everyone to maintain that focus and talk to your kids and have those conversations and make sure there are open lines of communication. So, in conclusion, just reiterate what Ms. Benning has said, and I would encourage you all to look at the example that she sets, as well as Mr. Stewart, and that I know Darren reiterated when he was up here. It will take everybody to make this a reality. If you want to make this the safest capital city in the country, it will take absolutely everybody's help to do it. And we have some wonderful people here. I see Mr. Barry Feeker in the back. He's been doing great work with the rescue mission and with Restore Hope and working with victims of sex trafficking. I see a lot of other amazing people in this room. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your attention. And please, let's do this. Let's work together. And let's make this a reality. I know we can do it, so let's get it done. Thank you.
All right, we want to thank you so much for the presentation. Again, thank you all so much for coming out today to the Safe Streets Coalition meeting. The next meeting, November 1st. Please, before you leave, be sure to fill out these surveys on your table so we know how to keep this thing moving in the right direction. And please be very safe, you and your families, for Halloween, and enjoy the trick-or-treating. Thank you very much.